Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ducky Aquatics. This is just an update for the fish that I've been prepping for going into tubs. I just wanted to start off before he moved. Oh, and he has. It's really hard to see. There's Mum, and there's that big red face is Dad. My two crebensis I had in my tank with my million of gold cloud minnows and a couple guppies and Harlequin Rosporas have had a heap of babies. They're absolutely adorable. Wasn't expecting it. I mean, you put two crebensis in a tank, you expect it, but I wasn't expecting it that quickly. They've only been in there for a week. These fish in here, these are 24 karat gold guppies. Can't really appreciate them top down with just ambient light. These are platinums, and then these are some Variatus platies. I'm taking these guys all to the auctions on the weekend, so hopefully they do quite well. These ones here are some koi guppies. These ones will actually spit out blue koi guppies when they have babies eventually, because it's part of a breeding project I'm doing with a friend, but I'll do another video on that. But the fish that I am deworming in the buckets, you can kind of see how hazy the water's gone, and a few fish kind of resting at the bottom, and the mollies up at the surface here. These guys kind of hiding in the sides of the buckets, and here as well. These guppies in here are the only ones that actually haven't got any deworming medicine in with them, because these females are quite heavily pregnant and I don't want to stress them out unnecessarily by deworming them before they drop fry. I figure a few of them have dropped fry already, and they've just been cannibalizing them like crazy, which is sad because I love having baby fish, but at the same time it's not the end of the world because they're guppies, they're perpetually pregnant. Out of my 10 male red guppies, you can see this one's got a waddle. This is a huge indicator. When they're waddling like that, there's something wrong with the fish. This one isn't as bad, so hopefully one of them at least survives. They've got the dewormer in there, but out of the 10, there's 2 that have survived. Most of them came in and were having the death waddles like that for quite a while. These swordtails in here seem alright, but you can see the water's gone quite hazy. The fish aren't loving it because they don't like medications being in there, which is why I fed them up for a few days first with some really good quality food. That's why I was feeding only live baby brine shrimp to these fish. This medication that deworms them targets Camellinus redworms and tapeworm, so those two worming medicines in conjunction work quite well to clear the fish out, but they really don't like it. And if you've got fish that have a really severe infestation of particularly the Camellinus redworms, it's not unusual to lose up to 50% of your fish if you've got visible worms already coming out of the cloacas in large quantities. And you can see these ones have got shimmers as well, or shimmying, so that's a little bit of stress and not being happy with the medications. But I think it's very important to just do this deworming first, especially from fish that have come from the wholesalers. I lost one of these sunset platies, which is bad, but not the worst. But you can really see these guys have got the waddles as well. These guys I actually don't think I'll lose too many of them from deworming, but they are definitely not the happiest about having the medication in there. So with the dewormer, you run it for 3 days. On the 3rd day, if you're doing it in a quarantine tank or quarantining buckets like what I'm doing here, you catch the fish out with the net. Try not to get any of like this mold and poop that's all there. Try and get the fish out separately. Put them into another fresh container or bucket with dechlorinated water, and then I usually bleach the bucket to clean it and disinfect it, whatever, make sure all the residue's out, then fill it up with water, dechlorinated, put the fish back in there, and I feed them really well, good quality food again for another week and a half. Do a water change, and then after that water change, on the third day after the water change, so they've had a little bit of time to de-stress from that traumatic event, then I do the second deworming, and that should pretty much make sure that after 3 days from that deworming, they're clear of any parasites. You catch the fish out and put them, again, make sure to avoid any of the poop and mold that's in there. Catch the fish out and put them into their permanent home then. And doing that, it's a 2-week process, or 2-week process, 2.5-week process. Doing that, you pretty much, you take out so many headaches that you could have from getting particularly the Camellinus redworms into your tanks, because once they infest your fish, it's just a nightmare. So it's not unusual to see the fish hating life like this, but it's only 3 days. During the 3 days, you can feed them. Just feed them a lot less than what you would feed them if you're feeding them pellets or flake food or even frozen food. I would say there's a 75% chance they're going to have zero interest in the food. If you're feeding them live baby brine shrimp, a small amount, and they should still have interest in eating that, and that just helps clear out their digestive tract of any of the worms that they've got something to push out. So yeah, that's pretty much how you deworm the fish. It's really simple. All these ones got the medication in there. They will be caught out as well. So in 2 more days from now, they'll all be in fresh buckets and they'll be a lot happier. But I'll show you the medication I use. So I'll cover the name, it's probably you've already seen it, but focus. So yeah, change water. If you're doing a fish tank, change the water 24 hours before. 1 ml per 10 litres of tank water, and then 50% water change on your main aquarium if you're doing that. After the 3rd day, get the ingredients there. So that's what's in here, the mixture that's in here, and that does your tapeworm and your nematodes, which is your Camellinus redworms. Otherwise, they're nearly impossible to get rid of. With that medication, though, it's important to remember it doesn't actually kill the worms. It stuns them and allows the fish to pass them out through their cloaca. In guppies, you will usually see, right where that anal fin is on the female, you usually see some hair-like threads, maybe that much sticking out, and they're red, and that's the signs of the worms being in there. When they pass them out through there on the 3rd day, when you do your gravel vac, if you're treating your main aquarium, gravel vac everything in your aquarium, because the worms not being dead, only being stunned, you want to get them out of there. And doing a gravel vac is the only way you're actually going to be able to physically remove them from the tank after they've been passed through. Another unfortunate thing I found with the red worms in my research for them is, so things like your little snails here and Malaysian trumpet snails there. I'm not sure about shrimp, but I know the snails. The snails can go through the gravel here where the eggs from certain types of the Camellinus redworms, because there are different varieties, can be there. They'll eat them. The parasites are actually able to go through the larval phase inside the snails, and they can use the snails as an effective host to overwinter. So if you've had constant issues with the redworms in tanks even after treating, but you got snails in there, it's your snails that the worms are overwintering in, and that's causing them to re-emerge. So that's why when you do your main aquarium like this, if you've had problems with the worms, you do the treatment, you wait 3 days for the fish to pass out whatever they can. If you've got a lot of worms in the fish already sticking out, you'll probably lose those fish altogether. And then you will find gravel vacuuming all this, get the worms out, 2 weeks again, fatten the fish up, repeat the treatment, gravel vac everything again, and then do your weekly water changes. Like, I don't do water changes in my aquariums because I'm really lazy and I've got so many plants and all there, the water stays fine. But do your weekly water changes with a gravel vac in between waiting for your treatments of the dewormer. And in your main aquarium, I recommend doing 4 treatments. Sounds like a lot because you're pretty much prolonging it for, what is that, 2 weeks per treatment, like an 2-month cycle to do everything. But that's the only way I've really found you can be sure that you've got all the worms out of them, including the ones that might be overwintering inside the snails. Prior to what a lot of people would say on like Facebook, you don't need to bin your aquarium plants because the snails aren't, sorry, not the snails, the worms aren't actually going to be living in your plants. They just kind of go through the fish hoping to be picked up by something else, so the plants aren't going to spread the worms, unlike your little invertebrates like your snails will. So that's just a quick overview of how to do a deworming with Camellinus redworms for your tanks. They are an absolute nightmare to get rid of. Oh, there's the crepensis. Look at the colours on them, and all the little babies. I'm super happy with my $30 purchase of the 2 adults. But yeah, so that's all you got to do for your deworming. It's a really big process when you're talking it out, but once you actually do it, you realize it takes pretty much no time to do it, and when you do it, you have the best results. Especially for your live bearers, once you've done a dewormer, if they didn't have Camellinus redworms, but they may have had tapeworms, just getting those out of the fish, the amount of fry you'll get out of those same fish compared to before is mind-boggling, because you don't have little parasites stealing the nutrients that should be going to developing the fry. So you get better spawns out of your fish. Depending on the size of your guppy, you might get bigger broods, or the size of the fry may be slightly larger just because they're getting that extra nutrients to really develop. The worms can affect pretty much every fish. Doesn't matter if it's rams or guppies. Once they're infested, you need to do a dewormer, otherwise it is a death sentence. Some other stuff that's happening in here. Hopefully the glare from the plant racks behind will go away. These are all red tiger lotus, which I don't know why they're red. I actually bought green tiger lotus from the wholesaler as a rootstock plant, and these are the babies that came off them. But I'm taking these to the auction, so I've got about 20 of them here. I'll probably take 10 or so, maybe 15 to the auction on the weekend. And I'll sell them for $10 each because they're hella expensive wholesale and whatever, but when you propagate them, you can sell them for whatever you like. And this is what I did with all the little bulbs from the mother plants that I broke off. I chucked them in a bucket, ambient light from the system I've got here going into here, stimulating the plant growth, and then when they've turned into little rooted out plants with leaves, pot them up, put them in there with some fertilizer, and then how quickly they grew. They've only been potted up for about 2 weeks with some fertilizer, and I've just taken off from this size. Nothing much really else going on in these tanks apart from breeding, which I'll do a different video for breeding projects. But yeah, so some of the stuff I'm taking to the auctions. Another thing I'm taking to the auctions as well to sell are some giant Vallisneria, and this will be a good opportunity because I'll probably forget by the time I make a Vallisneria video. Oh, that's a broken one, and it won't be good. Here we are. This is what a flower of a Vallisneria looks like, if it will focus. So these are underwater flowers, and they just kind of go like that. There's another one over there. So when you see these little tendrils growing off your Vallisneria, that's actually what they are. They're just the flowers developing, which is really interesting because a true aquatic plant that doesn't actually grow up out of water getting flowers is really interesting to me. I've got some Borneo swords or arrow plants, also known as synagoniums or cynoniums, however you want to pronounce it. I'll get them propagated. I won't take any to the auction this time, but I will take some in March. And they're just a good way to break like out of a rimless tank. If you've got tanks like these, if you want to have plants growing out, they're a good one to have. Another really good one to have is this spath, also known as a peace lily. None of these have any white flowers on them at the moment. The ones outside do have flowers, but I was unable to break them out. But I'll be dividing these up and I'll be selling them at the auction as well. So if you want to create some of your own scapes similar to what Adrian from Adrian's Fish Room does, they're a good one to have. And I've got some extra plants in here